Today on Locked On Rockies, another series, another situation in which the Colorado Rockies offense is dominated by elite pitching, which begs the question yet again, when will this team make an adjustment?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock On Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 22nd day of April in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day is talk Rockies baseball, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show, just like so many of you are, including Cassidy Dean 1727. For some context, Rockies in 2023 through the first 22 games were 6-18. Right now, after finishing Sunday's doubleheader, they are 5-17. I think we can expect another 100-loss season, maybe even 110 plus. Cassidy, thank you so much for letting me know what's on your mind. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies by firing off your Rockies hot takes. Let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Rockies in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Cassidy, right now, certainly on that track for 100 losses. We'll see if the schedule ever reprieves, but at the same time, we knew that this schedule was difficult for the Rockies. We knew that the start of the season was going to be tough, but it's really disappointing to see how the Rockies have fallen. In key situations where they have had opportunities to prove themselves, they've fallen. And not only fallen, embarrassed. That was an embarrassing weekend at Coors Field. Plain and simple. That team, what you saw there is a Mariners team that's going to be fighting tooth and nail to get into the playoffs. A good Mariners team face off against a team that's been looking to make an impact, looking to make a statement. But it was another reminder that this offense, they're behind. They are 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps. I don't know how many steps it is behind, but this Rockies team is not prepared for as an offense. And now they're down even more on in the pitching department. If you're not sitting there in the positions of power of the Colorado Rockies, and you're not sitting there saying enough is enough, and you're going to allow another season to go to waste like this. And we know what the purpose of the season is, but this team doesn't look like it's close to finishing the rebuild. This team doesn't look like it's got a cutting edge against some of these teams. Maybe, just maybe, that has something to do with the fact that this team doesn't invest in being a 21st century baseball team. Dick Monfort is continuing to hope that 2007 gets recaptured every time and that a team is going to go on a run. And folks, it's obvious to you, the fans. I know that. It's obvious to me. The Colorado Rockies are broken. I mean, this team was lifeless at home. We'll dive into more of that coming up here throughout the rest of the episode. Because before we get started, I just want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Rockies split the series. I'm sorry. It felt like a sweep because the Rockies were bailed out at the end of the game. Should have been a walk-off home run by Jacob Stallings. Feel bad for that fan. I really hope the Rockies and everyone do the right thing, because that fan, if he receives some negative stuff, I didn't see interference. I thought it was past the yellow. He didn't lean that far over, and he didn't interfere that much with the play. The Rockies still win that game, thank God. Because, boy, talk about nothing more 2024 Colorado Rockies than than losing a game that you were supposed to have a walk-off home run on because of fan interference, and then you lose that game, which it very well likely could have happened. But here's the deal, folks. We talked about this on Friday. This is elite. This is an elite pitching staff. And I think the best way to think of this, if you're a Rockies fan, is think of this if you were in the playoffs, 7-game series. Domination. by Seattle in the first 3 games. Obviously, it was a 3-game series. With the Rockies getting lucky that they won that game. The Rockies were lucky to avoid the sweep, as I got a spare hair getting in my way here. And it's just another series where you sit there and you just say, the Rockies are behind. And this is a Mariners team that came out the gate struggling. I mean, this is a Mariners team that offense was not their strength, but we talked about it going in there. It's a team that just swept the Reds. It's an offense that just started brewing. It's an offense that has potential, but it has been flying under the radar. And what do the Mariners do in a situation where they need to capitalize, where they need to go on the road in a hitter-friendly environment and dominate? What do the Mariners do when they need to continue their good, strong stretch of playing baseball? Well, they go and they win 2 out of 3 in cores with an argument of a sweep. The Mariners responded to their 4-game winning streak being snapped by winning the next game. That's what the Rockies don't do. It's 5 games, 6 games, losing streaks. It's snapping a streak, luckily, because you get a walk-off home run. When is this team going to make an adjustment and be ready to handle Major League pitching? Bam Bam. Stop going into cockpits and start getting in the lab and figuring out why your offense strikes out 10 times a game. The worst out possible. And the Rockies do it almost half of the time, it feels like. Rockies offense in this series, game 1, 7-0 shutout loss at home. The Colorado Rockies strike out 11 times. You might as well just hang an L up on the for the Rockies if Luis Castillo is going to take them on. The Colorado Rockies in their game 2 win strike out 11 times. The Colorado Rockies in their 10-2 beat down by the Mariners in the finale, they strike out 6 times. So there you go, a benefit. 6 strikeouts. I can't be sitting here and saying 6 strikeouts is something I'm necessarily stoked by, but if the Rockies only struck out 6 times a game, I'd be a much happier podcast host. The main takeaway from this series is again, show us something. What analysis do I need to give? What breakdown do I need to give? I mean, what other than the fact that this team stinks? This team can't hit. And now this team is down another pitcher because the pitching wasn't great in this series either. The Rockies were outscored by the Mariners at home, a place where the Mariners do not play very often. The Mariners were outscored the Rockies were outscored. I'm sorry, I'm getting all confused. The Rockies were outscored by 18-4. 18-4. That's after being outscored by the Phillies by a score of, let's see here, 14-7. Being out, and luckily the Rockies have that Blue Jays win where I know they've lost, but it hasn't been close. The Rockies have scored more than 2 runs once in the last 2 series. Once going back to last Sunday. A full week of baseball has happened, and the Rockies have only scored more than 2 runs twice. That's the state of the Rockies offense. Yes, the Mariners pitching staff is great. But we're going to continue to say that about every team that rolls through. Are we really confident that the Phillies rotation was that dominant? Because they certainly looked like it. And we haven't even seen the revamped Diamondbacks lineup. We haven't even seen this Padres team yet. The Rockies have to be successful against the Padres here at home because you're looking at an opportunity here where you can start making up some ground. Because the Astros have struggled, and the Marlins have been arguably one of the few teams to get off to a worse start than the Rockies, and they come up to, those are the 2 series to end the month of April and kick off the month of May with. But I can't sit here and say I have any confidence in this offense right now. I like the players. I know what they're capable of doing, but I mean, that's tough. To go down 10-2 in your home ballpark, to go to after you put up a 2 spot to then play an abysmal, pitiful, pathetic inning to follow that up. I mean, Nolan Jones, woof. Hasn't gotten a hit since the Toronto series, double-digit strikeouts. Where is the adjustment? Where is the breakdown? I mean, I know it's baseball, but dang, that's 30 at-bats. My biggest takeaway continues to be from the series and this and going through the season at point. Adjust, react, adapt, change, do something different instead of us tuning in every night to watch the team strike out over 10 times and hit dribblers to the infield. The Blake Street bomber mentality, the offensive dominant Coors Field is, and for the Rockies, is such a distant memory at this point. Until this team proves that they can handle elite pitching, you have to go into every single series against teams with good, not even great rotations like the Mariners, good rotations, and think the Rockies are a step behind. This offense is 3 steps behind the major league pitchers right now. They can't catch up. They can't clutch hit. They can't hit for power. The Colorado Rockies are so far behind the rest of the league when it comes to playing good baseball right now. Thank goodness the White Sox exist. Because there'd be an argument, and it'd be a good one, that this team is the worst team in baseball right now. Something I didn't think was the case, but right now, this team is playing and demonstrating that they are a basement dweller team. I have to apologize. I have to correct myself. I have to hold myself accountable for my initial reaction to the Kyle Freeland injury. I'm going to do that coming up here in segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. We're also brought to you by Monopoly Go. You love Monopoly. I love Monopoly. And if you're a competitive person, and if you think that's true, well, I got the game for you. We all have a competitive side. And if your competitive side is a fan of Monopoly, well, guess what? You're going to love Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times, and it's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part, you can mess with your friends. You can charge them rent on your iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly, but you can even pull off a heist and take their riches for yourself. But it's not just your competitive side that's going to love it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in on the game you and your friends love, Monopoly. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find all your Locked On coverage, especially if you want to stay up to date with all things in the playoffs. Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Avalanche. They got you covered as our teams go through. Woof. Avs last night, man. Talk about a team that also is pretty split up, man. They got some great stuff, but that goalie's got to figure it out. Anyway, hey, if you want to catch all the action between the Padres and the Rockies, you can do so on Sirius XM. That you can get the whole play-by-play, maybe even check out the Padres play-by-play if you'd like to do something a little bit different, but available to you on the Sirius XM app or Sirius XM. Just search Colorado Rockies. You'll be good to go. Want to also let you know about the Locked On Sports Today, which is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, I want to issue a formal apology for being a homer and being an immediate incendiary reaction person to the Kyle Freeland injury news. And, of course, super big bummer. I mean, literally, when you're talking about a thing that is an add to the nightmare scenario of the Colorado Rockies continue, and I say whatever you want about his start. Say whatever you want about it, about his performance, about the ERA, about the Diamondbacks game, all of that. Notable criticism and understandable criticism. The Rockies are worse without Kyle Freeland. The Rockies have less depth without Kyle Freeland. The Rockies' bullpen gets weaker without Kyle Freeland. Peter Lambert is better in long relief than a starter. I think Peter Lambert benefits from being someone that plays later in the game, plays some and is that reliever instead of someone that is the starter. I think we've had enough examples of that where I think it works out better for Lambert if it's in smaller sample sizes. But now the Rockies have to again play another season down a major key part of their rotation. 3 pitchers that were extended by the Colorado Rockies to deals to be leaders in this rotation are injured with elbow injuries on the Rockies. It's a massive problem. Before we dive into that, I thought it was related to the injury initially. When I saw Kyle Freeland was going down with the injury, I thought it was initially related. Different part of the body, elbow, not a shoulder. But then the stories, the details come out, and Freeland mentions the soreness earlier in the season. Elbow soreness. That doesn't seem like something you want to go and have your guy go out and pitch again. And then pitch again. And pinch run and get in a situation like that. If Kyle Freeland was already known to be having an elbow issue, I'm even more in disagreement of pinch running him in that situation. The Rockies lose Kyle Freeland for 6 weeks due to this elbow thing, and he says that the pitching clock is the big thing. And the pitching clock is a factor. But I'm of belief of the human body isn't supposed to do what pitchers are doing as consistently as they're doing now. I'm not a doctor. I haven't dove into the numbers as much. I haven't done that. But is it not strange? Is it more the pitch clock for Kyle Freeland that leads to the injury? Or is it the fact that Kyle Freeland just spent an entire offseason trying to up his velocity and he upped it by 4 miles per hour and then got in game situations where things weren't going well, so he had to put an extra pressure on himself and his body to perform while doing it with less time because of the pitch clock? Again, when it comes to pitch clock stuff, I am not your guy. There are people that have dove into the numbers. There are people that have done journalism studying the trends in injuries. Please do not. I'm just giving you my 2 cents there. There is a lot more research and a lot more in-depth work that people have done when it comes to that. So I absolutely think the pitch clock is a factor. But I also was just told that Kyle Freeland went through a whole offseason program where he was getting the healthiest he feels like. He's increased the velocity. Maybe, just maybe, the human body isn't supposed to throw balls 100 miles an hour, mid-90s hour with weird arm angles and snapping your elbow in certain directions in order to get the ball to spin certain ways. And doing that with less recovery time in between pitches certainly is a factor. But above all, I just wanted to mostly say that I was a part of the initial problem that said the Kyle Freeland's injury was related to the pinch run thing and jumped on the pile on there. So I at least want to acknowledge the fact that I got that wrong. It still doesn't change the fact that this is a massive blow to this team. It still doesn't make any sense why they pinch ran Kyle Freeland, especially if they knew he had a sore elbow. If he had a sore elbow early in the season, they shut him down after Arizona. You already my biggest concern with this Kyle Freeland injury news is now 3 mainstay Rockies pitchers have gone down with serious elbow injuries in the past 2 seasons. Again, I ask, what is the staff doing? It's the body. I know it's weird. I know you can't always control that stuff. It's internal. But I plead, I ask, what are the Colorado Rockies doing as an organization, as a staff, to prevent this? Especially when they are the 3 pitchers that not only you believed in, but signed to extensions. Counted on to be the core of your rotation. 3 of them. Your 1, 2, and 3, all down with elbow injuries. That's a significant problem. I know it's happening to pitchers out there, and I'm not as familiar with other teams' rotations, but I have to find it very interesting that the Rockies are the only team with 3 of their pitchers on the IL with elbow injuries. Again, you can say what you want about the performance of Kyle Freeland, but if he's sore in the elbow after throwing all spring at the increased velocity, no wonder he got shelled by Arizona. No wonder he keeps throwing pitches in the middle of the zone. No wonder he doesn't look like Kyle Freeland, because he's not Kyle Freeland, because he's throwing with a hurt elbow, and he's thrown with a hurt elbow all season. It's just another example here. It is just another moment where I sit there and I doubt the people behind the scenes of the Colorado Rockies. I don't think that they are not only putting their team in the best position to win ball games. I am very concerned by the level of high intensity arm injuries that this organization from the top down is experiencing, especially as we're entering in basically a draft and trading mindset where it's get every single pitcher under the sun to come to this team that we can get. But to have 3 of your starters on the IL with elbow injuries does not build confidence. And now the Rockies are going to have to navigate 6 weeks without Kyle Freeland. Doesn't get any easier for the Rockies here as they are playing a Padres team that's continuing to look to make noise here in the NL West in the beginning month of the season. We'll talk about that. We'll get ready. And again, I ask the question here, where is the adjustment and where is the accountability going to be for this Rockies team coming up here in segment number 3? Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel is your number 1 sportsbook. It's also America's number 1 sportsbook, especially right now when it is prime time for sports. You got the NBA playoffs. You got the hockey playoffs with the NHL and baseball. Well, they're playing every day. FanDuel is your spot to bet on every game. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. And you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, Nikola Jokic rebounds. Maybe you want to bet on the Nuggets money line, whatever you are believing in when it comes to your playoff action. Or maybe you think that you have seen the signs for the Rockies that can help win you a couple extra bucks. You can do it all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's number 1 sportsbook. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. Shouting out our everydayers out there. Really appreciate y'all tuning in and joining us today, making us your first listen. Hey, you Rockies fans have been rocking and rolling with us here throughout this season. So really appreciate that. The Rockies here are looking to avoid another losing streak as they did snap a 6 game skid in that first game against the Mariners, and they look to start things over to start a new winning streak here. against the San Diego Padres and their new arm, Dylan Cease, who's 1.99 ERA, 0.93 whip over 22 innings pitched, 10 hits allowed, and 27 strikeouts on the season to 11 walks, 1 home run. So there's your answer there. If the Rockies want to get out today and do some damage, they're going to have to take good professional at-bats. Will the Rockies offense make an adjustment and not strike out 10 times in the game? Will the Rockies be able to prepare their team in order to get them to face an NL rival, an NL West rival? We'll see. Because right now, throughout this season, I have no confidence in this in the people getting this team ready to go. Plain and simple. I haven't been very vocal about necessarily about my thoughts on Bud Black, about that stuff. And Bud Black and manager is one thing. I have bigger issues with pitching coaching and hitting coaching. And it's once again on full display. I also like to put this little grain of salt. The people in that organization know more about baseball than me, especially the ones on the bench. They're working in professional baseball. I just want to know again, though. I really would. This would be a great interview to have, I think, with the guys. What are you doing to get to prepare this team? How do you get this team to stop these streaks? How do you better prepare them to handle the elite level pitching of Major League Baseball? Because you're working on some stuff. What adjustments are you going to help Nolan Jones make so he can get a hit, so he can stop striking out all the time? It's on the players too. I understand that. And the doubts of the players are earned and credible. But when I see this team, I just can't help but think of lack of preparation. And it circles back to we got Jeff Hoffman talking about never seeing this type of stuff. There is a long history of when the players leave the Rockies. Eventually, they give a press conference where they talk crap about the lack of knowledge and resources and everything the Rockies have. When is that going to change? I simply do not understand how the Rockies can continue to thrive as not only being a bad team, but being a team that's behind the 8 ball on getting to become a better team. It just reminds me again. I think it's going to be something I'm going to keep referring to this season. This is something I'm not going to let Dick Monfort live down. Bringing in someone from the outside is the other side of it. And I'm not saying it's totally wrong, but when former GM Jeff Bridich left, there were a lot of people from the outside who interviewed or had interest. They would tell me how to win at altitude and everything they mentioned. It would not have worked, or it's all the things we've tried, Monfort said. I think in any business, you have to have people you can trust, and I trust both of them. With Schmidt, it's his 3rd year. I think he has a good handle on it. I think he has a lot of talent to work with people with coming up. Take the combination of smart baseball people who work hard, who are trustworthy, loyal, and all want to win in Colorado. That's a damn good combination. Schmidt's one thing because there are moves that actually I'm fine with, but man, to sit there and just say they would tell me how to win at altitude and everything they mentioned, it would not have worked, or that's all we've tried. That's just Dick Monfort again. Nope. Got it figured out. When is he going to make an adjustment? When is anybody going to make an adjustment? Because every game, it's been the same script. Fall behind early, strike out 10 times. Follow up your one good inning with giving up 6 runs. It's roster construction, certainly, but it also has something to do with the preparation and getting this team ready to go. And it's something that this team lacks. There's no pulse on this team. There's no energy on this team. There's no life on this team. There's no excitement on this team. Something has to change. Or else the confidence level is going to continue to go down, and you can't sit there and necessarily say you're abundantly confident for the future if some of these players aren't panning out. I don't know. Just really frustrating weekend again for Rockies baseball. Folks, that's going to do it for us here on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Rockies take on the Padres tonight at 6:40. That's first pitch. It is Austin Gomber taking on Dylan Cease here in game 1 of a 4-game set. Maybe we can look ahead, and maybe I'll reach out to Javi. We'll break down the season, do our first in-season recap here after the series gets finished and wrapped up. But folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Be part of the show. Let me know what's on your mind. Fire off your Rockies hot takes there in the comment section. You can check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day, or if you need more great Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, available for you free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.